Hola y bienvenidos a otro episodio de Around the Block. ¿Qué? Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Block Talk, marketing advice that works. I'm your host, Los, and today I have a special guest, Nathaniel Dion, who is a professional copywriter and messaging specialist, and he happens to be one of the key members of the Blue Bamboo crew. Welcome, Nathan.
Hey, Carlos. It's a pleasure to be on with you today. Thanks for having me on your show.
And today we're going to be talking about why your marketing fails.
Let's do this.
A lot of the time we focus on how we talk to people on the phone or how we talk to a customer or client in person, but oftentimes I think we have a memory relapse or it escapes our mind to think about what we sound like when someone checks out our website, when someone checks out a flyer, when even someone checks out maybe our social media accounts and they read messaging of what we do or how we do it. I think that a lot of times people are forgetting messaging. And for you've been doing this for many years in terms of messaging and copywriting. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. In fact, it's a little bit more important because it's permanent. Once you put it out there, it's around for years to come, and people can find it on the internet in archives. So if you put it out there, it better be quality.
Oh, exactly. I agree. And that's what I'm hoping that today's episode really helps people hone in and understand this perspective. It's not so much what you say always, but how you say it, right? And we're going to go over those topics today with you, and I know that we're going to be able to cut through the smoking mirrors, if you will. So, one of the things is I always, when we run into, when we work with clients and we hear their horror stories, they always say, oh, I'm marketing here, I'm marketing there, I'm marketing everywhere, and I just don't get the results. I want to sell to everyone. I just want to make money. Why is that a problem? Why does that seem to be always an issue when someone wants to reach out to everybody and considers every Tom, Dick, and Harry part of their audience? Why is that a problem?
Well, when you're targeting an audience that's too big, it's hard for people to understand that you're talking to them. Not just because everyone can use your product doesn't mean that everyone will use your product. I like to put it this way. If you're talking to everyone, no one knows when to listen. So if your audience doesn't think you're speaking to them, what's going to happen almost every time is you're going to get ignored. Mm-hmm. And we as marketers understand that you need to talk to a specific person, or as we call it, a persona or an avatar. When you do that, you'll be far more effective because you're speaking directly to them in the words that they think and use, and they will understand that you are speaking to them. I would rather speak to 20 people who listen and pay attention than 2,000 who ignore me.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think a lot of the time when people have this idea of everybody is in their audience, it really clouds their judgment, and even deciding in the next few points that we're going to be covering, you can't even get to answering these other few points or addressing these points without understanding your audience buying your products or services. That leads us to another component. Okay, so they failed at getting the right audience, right? And they continue to proceed with their marketing, and they say, now I'm going to go ahead and create some ads, right? I'm going to create a campaign, and I'm going to push it out there. Why is it that people will sometimes focus on making an ad or a campaign like beautiful, shiny, bells and whistles, but yet they don't get any response when people actually check out their ads or check out their video content? Why do you think the biggest reason for a failed campaign that has all the bells and whistles, what happened there?
They were being too vague. Realistically, when you're talking to everybody, like we talked about just a second ago, and you're trying to be all fancy, you're not focusing on clarity, and confusion, as we know, kills the sale. So, I mean, I love puns and inside jokes as much as the next guy, but if those tend to miss more than they hit. If you have to explain it, or if you had to be there to understand it, your audience isn't going to understand you. And if they can't understand you, you are confusing them. I have a simple rule. If you have to choose between being clear and being clever, be clear.
I really love that concept of, whether it's going to be clear or clever, you need to make sure that it's clear, and I think that's the number one component. I really appreciate that point. I think that's key, and I feel like sometimes when we get customers, like we had this customer who helps create medical devices. And she's amazing. You remember her. She does really important work, but when she was trying to talk to her end customer who's going to hire her to help make the product better designed, get it to market, she was inundating a lot of the copy with saying technical jargon. Why is that a problem, to be speaking so many specifics and details?
Well, there's a couple problems packaged in here. The first one is, while the engineers will love it, they aren't the ones who are making the purchases. The ones who are making the purchases are the CEOs. And they don't think like engineers. They don't think in terms of, I need this specification necessarily. They think in terms of saving time and saving money. And if you're not speaking their language, they're not going to pay attention to you. Their language is saving time, saving money. I mean, people don't buy the products with the best specs all the time. They buy the products that'll help them achieve their dreams or goals. So if you're using industry jargon and product features as your selling points, most of your audience is just going to zone out. It's going to go right over their heads. That's why it's important to talk about your products and services in terms of how it helps your end client achieve their goals or their dreams. For instance, we all have phones. So what's the difference between 64 gigs and 128 gigs? Well, in terms of us, it's just a number. But if you break it down in terms of how many apps you can have on your phone, how much music and pictures you can have on your phone, then it's a different story. If I tell you that the difference between 128 gigs and 64 gigs is you being able to enjoy having your phone for as long as you've got it, or having to weigh which app or download you're going to sacrifice, then you get the picture. The second is far more compelling, and it deals with what you have to deal with every day.
I think that's critical, is making it clear, right? You can make something technical into something very specific, like flying, right? We don't hear all the jargon about airlines and what they have to do to fly us. They just pitch us with the idea of, we get to the next place and we get, on our vacation or on our location. We're probably not going to see that for a while with the environment that we're in today, but that's how it was, right? Lifestyle. So I really love that idea of, presenting that information that is digestible and really works. Don't talk up your products or your services so much that you lose someone. It's kind of like the nerd effect, right? Only fellow nerds, you and I, can enjoy the specifics of what we do, but for clients, they want to know that they're going to get customers, and it's going to help execute their results.
Yeah, and in reality, if people can understand you and they are getting your inside jokes and they're understanding the benefits of the technical specs, typically they are in your industry and they don't need your services.
Yes, exactly. And I like that. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so people figure out an audience. They figure out their messaging. They're trying to clear it up, right? They're trying to create the message with really presenting the lifestyle, or how it benefits you, or how it helps your life, right? In simplistic, digestible terms. Relevancy, right? But then sometimes people get that, and they put it in a coupon book, or they put it in one post in a Facebook account that has one follower, or they use it maybe a couple of times in one or two emails, and that's it. You know, what is the problem with that? Why do people think that they can just create something and put it out somewhere, and all of a sudden they're going to retire from that? What is wrong with that logic?
Well, let me start by telling you a story. I saw a plane in downtown Denver. It was towing a banner, and I couldn't make it out for like 10 minutes. And I was like, what the heck is that? And then when I finally saw it, I saw that it was an ad for an invisible braces company. And my initial response was, what the heck? Why are they wasting their advertising money? It wasn't a bad idea to advertise their product at all. And in fact, if it had been advertised in a different place, I might have been interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem here is there's something worse than being ignored. It's being hated. When people see your ads in the wrong spot, they don't think, oh, that has nothing to do with me. Sometimes they do, but quite often people end up hating your ads because it's popping up in an inconvenient spot and they don't want to shift their thinking over to deal with it. Now, typically, my favorite example of one of the most hated ads is actually YouTube Premium. Every time I see that ad, I go, not now, not ever, go away and leave me alone.
And honestly, they don't have a lot of stuff on that side note.
And even if they did, just the way it pops up every single time when I'm trying to do something else, that annoys me. And I know it annoys a whole ton of other people. The point is, when your ad shows up in a spot that is out of line with where we think, out of line with where we are trying to focus, it becomes, instead of a help, it becomes an obstacle. And we have to actively ignore it. And if your ad is showing up in the wrong spot, it's going to be hated, not just ignored. So you have to think, where are you going to put it? Put it where your clients are going to be. If you're advertising invisible braces, maybe put your ad in a beauty magazine or right outside a dentist's office. Those are far better places than on a banner flying over downtown Denver.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Location, 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 right? There's nothing worse than showing up in the wrong place. There's nothing worse than showing up, having your ad show up in the wrong place or at the wrong time. And it reminds me of all the pop-up banner ads, or the pop-up ads, right? When they first started out years ago, less than a decade ago, they were amazing, right? They worked really well. They had conversion rates, but just quickly people just started getting annoyed with them. They hated seeing them. It didn't matter what it was. If it popped up, they just immediately hated it. And I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that you can do is leave a bad taste in your potential customer's mouth.
And you have to remember that people are far more likely to share a bad experience than they are with a good experience.
Absolutely. It's so much quicker to do that. And in today's world, it's an instant gratification. And if you don't gratify people with these components of your messaging, you're really going to have an awkward reaction from potential customers. And it only takes one bad experience to screw it all up. And we're talking about 5 key points here that you could easily screw up any of those and really be throwing your marketing for a loop. And this is really key stuff here. Another key component, though, is a lot of people wonder and think, how can I scale? How can I be conscious of my budget? How can I do more with less? And one of the biggest things people think about, clients think about is, oh, I'll do it myself. One time I had a client, an IT customer. He said he was watching one of our videos and he was working on his Squarespace account. building his website, clicking here, clicking there, and he's got the video playing off to the side. And the episode, it was with Celia, another Blue Bamboo teammate, and we were talking about doing it yourself and how it can cost you a lot more. Well, by the end of that video, he ended up turning off his account, canceled his account, and he called us because he said he had barely started setting it up, the account, and he was so overwhelmed with doing that work that he hadn't even gotten to a point where he could even release that website and use it, that he said, I just got to call some professionals. But why is it that people still think that they should do their marketing themselves? What's the logic in trying to do that, and what happens when you do?
Well, part of the thing is there is that sense when you're doing something DIY that, look at what I've accomplished. I've done this great thing. Everybody looks at it and goes, wow, that's cool. And you get to say, I built it myself. And there's some pride there. But the problem is that in order to do marketing well, you have to know more than just the basics. You have to keep track of the constantly changing environment. Facebook is always changing their algorithms, so things show up less. Google is always updating the way that their web tracker goes over your website. And if you aren't aware of all the little changes and you don't have the framework to put marketing into those things well, you're not going to create solid, long-lasting marketing. Also, it takes a whole lot of work. Let's be honest. The amount of work it takes to create one campaign can be overwhelming, especially when you have employees to keep track of. You have budget to track and keep down to the penny. And then you also have to maintain your store, track your inventory, and do all those other aspects of business that are more important to the day-to-day operations. And then you throw into that, hey, now you have to create a website and campaigns, and you have to do all the writing and make sure that people are going to understand and read it. And that's just overloading your system. You aren't in this business to write marketing campaigns. You're in this business to do whatever it is that you do, whether that's selling cars, doing plumbing, helping somebody with their electrical, or med tech devices, whatever. That's what you should be focusing on. And in those times, you need to call someone outside to help you, someone who knows marketing as well as you know what you're doing.
Absolutely. I think that it's the only time that I've ever found where a business owner does their own marketing and it works is when that business owner did marketing in another job, had a career in marketing, went to school and got training in marketing. They had acquired the knowledge on how to do that. I mean, great example is the blog that we're running with the newsletter campaign and video content that we do for these episodes. I mean, how many people are involved in there? There's 3 to 4 people, depending, maybe even 5. If we're needing to film something in a tricky way, we're writing, we're designing, we're posting content. And to think that one business owner who's got their expertise in a specific field is now trying to be an expert in another field, that to me oftentimes spells failure in your marketing. And I think it's very important that you work with professionals. I myself work with you because you're a lyrical master. You're a professional in your craft. Why do I need to feel like I can reinvent the wheel when you've already did it? And I think that's important for people to keep in mind as business owners.
Exactly. And all these areas that you can fail in, you can get 4 out of 5 right. And there's more than the 5 that we've mentioned today. You can get almost all of them right and get 1 wrong, and your whole campaign will be trashed. I mean, there are so many ads out there that are proof of this, where they got 1 element wrong and they didn't do their homework on that 1 element, and the whole marketing campaign fizzed out.
Yep.
And that's why it's important to have a team that knows what they're doing and can counterbalance each other. That's why we work so well together, Carlos, because you have expertise that I don't, and I have expertise that you don't. And when we combine our expertise, we create something that's better than either one of us could create alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. The mastermind effect, right? The more masterminds you have in your circle or around you, the more you can lean on their expertise, the more you could actually craft whatever movement you're making, marketing you're doing, product you're designing, service you're offering. When you have beautiful minds working together, you have some beautiful results. So I completely agree. Don't do it yourself, people. Work with the right people unless you're a master yourself, and then you've got it taken care of. But work with other people who have the expertise. That's very critical. Well, Nathan, you said it right. You hit the nail on the head. We are just talking about a few of the points. But there are 5 key points, though. These are 5 key points that you should, as a viewer, you should be litmus testing against your marketing. If you have content out there, use these 5 aspects, these critical aspects to bounce against your marketing. If you are planning on some, refer to these 5 points and really put your marketing under the test as to whether or not your target audience is too big. You need to make sure whether or not you're creating a clever campaign or making sure that it's a clever campaign and that it's very clear for people to understand, right? Another component is you want to make sure that you don't always talk up your products and services. Put it in a perspective that it has a relevance for your audience. And then the last couple of points here is, you need to post your ads in the right place, right? Location, location, location. Avoid putting them in the wrong places. And the last is, you need to avoid doing the marketing yourself. Nathan, with these 5 points, what do you think the result could be if people, viewers are, passing their marketing through these 5 perspectives? What do you think would come out of that?
You'll create something that's far more solid, far better than otherwise. There's a whole lot more detail that goes into it, obviously. But if you get these 5 foundational points right, you're going to set yourself up for far more success than you otherwise would.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Nathan, thank you. You did a bang-up job. I know that you got a lot more secret sauce up here with what you know, with tips. I'm looking forward to having you back. Would you come and join us again on another episode of Around the Block Talk?
I would love to come share some more copywriting and messaging tips with you guys.
I would love it. Everyone else would love it. The audience would love it. I think this is very important to have a clear conversation, clear messaging. You and I are communicating clearly. We're understanding the topics. And I think ultimately we want our audience to understand that too, that the clearer you can make your messaging, the better you will have. Your marketing is your messaging is the most important aspect ahead of the quality of video, ahead of the most amazing design website, ahead of everything else, because if people don't understand, they're just not going to get you. So if you found value in this video, please like it and share it. And if you are on Facebook, go to our page and give us a like, and also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get more marketing advice that works. I'm your host, Carlos, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Around the Block Talk. I will see you on the next one. Take care.